It's November 8th, 2021. This is Rook. Well, she is a British ballerina who is simply one of the best in the world and the first Persian dancer to ever join the Royal Ballet Company. Yasmine Naghdi was born to an Iranian father and a Belgian mother and was a ballet phenom from an early age, capturing the attention of the dance world. As a teenager, she was crowned Young British Dancer of the Year, and just 5 years ago, at age 24, she became the principal ballerina of the Royal Ballet, the highest rank for a dancer. Yasmine Naghdi joins us for a feature interview today from London, plus we have your letters of the week. This is Conversations from, to, and about the Iranian diaspora. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. This is Rook. Hi there, welcome to episode 154 of Rook. Nice to be talking to you. Hope you're keeping well. Wherever you are tuning in from around the world, hello to you from Toronto, Canada. Salam Dustan Aziz, Durud Bar Shoma. Hello, Groovy Shaya.
Hi, Aziz.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, actually. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Hello, Captain Reza.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
And hello, the fabulous Kian.
Hi, Jian.
Oh.
Did I say it weird?
I don't know. I don't know what you did there. I have no idea what you just did.
I just said your name.
Well, you said it with some drama
enthusiasm.
in your voice.
Ooh.
Listen, this Yasmine Naghdi, who is coming up, I was thinking about her, and I was thinking about the Iranian community. First of all, be honest, be Rook. Have any of you guys heard of her before this?
Nope.
No.
Before we chose her to come on the show? No. Right?
Nope.
And that's not because, I mean, you're not ballet aficionados. Well, actually, you are.
I love the ballet.
And you've never heard of
and
Yasmine
I'm
Naghdi.
ashamed that I don't know her
Well,
name.
because now you know something about her, right? Well, and I don't want to say that, I mean, obviously there's people listening who will know who she is and know of her and know how great she is. But I'm more specifically talking about the Iranian community. Now, Yasmin did not grow up in Iran, born in London, like myself, and she is half Persian. Her dad is Iranian, so, let's get that out there first. But, there are folks, well-known folks, stars of the Iranian community that everyone knows, right? That the Maz Jobrani.
Yeah.
We all know Maz Jobrani. We all know he's Iranian. We're all proud of Maz Jobrani. He's one of the comedians that the world recognizes, and we think he's great. Then there are folks who are supremely talented and super successful that the Iranian community doesn't necessarily know. I know this is changing with her. I know she's got a gazillion Instagram followers and stuff, and I know some of those are in Iran. But for the most part, I've been asking around, Yasmine Naghdi, other than dancers or folks who really follow the ballet or those who are in the UK, they don't necessarily, and she is truly one of the best in the world. Like she is the Michael Jordan, the Wayne Gretzky, the Haide. I don't know. Who do we say?
Haide actually is perfect.
Perfect. All right. Well, she is, just to put this in perspective, there are maybe, 5-10 ballet companies that are always cited as the best in the world, right? There's the Paris, the Moscow, and the Royal Ballet is usually in the top 5. So this is one of the top companies in the world. Now, to get into that, to become a member of the company, the Royal Ballet, is quite an accomplishment. She is the principal ballerina of the Royal Ballet. Do you know what that means, Shaya?
Based on your wow, I can.
Yeah, she's like the David Gilmour of Pink Floyd. She's like the
principal ballerina.
Try to get him to understand how do you explain the Shaya? Yeah,
no, I got it.
She's like Shajarian if
Yeah, I know.
If Shajarian was a band.
Jajarian was playing with a bunch of other people, and he's in the middle, and the spotlight is on him. So can you imagine? She's in her 20s, in late 20s now. She's, the principal ballerina of this company, of the Royal Ballet at the Royal Opera House. I mean, she's got a performance of Giselle coming up that's going to be streamed worldwide. And I mean, all of that is super impressive. But, for us, I believe in the Iranian community around the world, this is the kind of person that we should know about, we should be celebrating, we should be talking about. Just the focus and the perseverance and the raw talent to get to where she's gotten to, let alone to be the first Middle Eastern dancer to ever be in the Royal Ballet, or the only one in the Royal Ballet.
I don't know of any others. I didn't even know about her. So she's doing a lot for the community.
It's amazing. Yeah. Do you know how to say ballet in Farsi, Jian?
No. Is there such a thing?
Yeah.
Ballet? No.
Actually, ballet.
Ballet.
Yeah, ballet. And do you know how to say
that.
ballerina?
Thank you. That was really interesting.
It's better than Sege Abi. Come on. At least it's close.
Ballet.
And you say how to say.
Is there ballet in Iran? Like, do they have ballet? Like,
We
I'm
have ballet,
assuming they have
No,
ballet.
we had Nima Kian on the show. There was a ballet.
Right, before the revolution.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. We had everything
the
before
revolution,
the revolution.
I mean, the ballet right now is second to none in Iran. Come on. Those
I think ballet contravenes the rules of the
a little bit.
Islamic.
A little bit.
Yeah. But anyway, so Yasmine Naghdi, I mean, there's a lot I want to talk to her about it, but especially the kind of discipline and focus that it takes to become, to get to this level. Like, I got to think, I'll ask her, but I got to think she hasn't had, it's like it's one of these, like I was using superstar athletes for a reason, because to get to that level, they've had to do it since they were a kid, and I know she joined the Royal Ballet Company. I think she was 11 years old to 12 years old. So she couldn't have had much of a normal childhood, or teenager. Like, she's not like you, Keon, running around malls and
Listen,
what were you doing at 15?
I used to dance ballet, but I wasn't that good.
Is that right?
Well, yeah. I think I
can't even begin to imagine you dancing.
I had one of those mothers that wanted to raise like a perfect little girl, and so she put me in ballet, but I was too chubby to really be good at it. I was a chubby little girl.
See, now we can't make fun of you.
I know, right?
See,
now
you
feel
turned
bad
it
for me.
around. Yeah, because I was going to ask if you were dancing before or after your nickname became the
bulldozer.
The bulldozer, yeah.
Yeah, see, I was
not a moniker that we associate with the ballet. The bulldozer.
I was more the
Keon,
soccer and rugby type than ballet. So.
Well, and I mean, I don't think anybody here is. I can't really imagine any of us dancing the ballet.
Even me? You cannot imagine.
You have a bit of a Nureyev about you, a bit of a Russian.
It would be weird with his beard, though. Do they have ballerinas? Don't have beards.
I don't think they.
Ballerinas certainly don't. No.
What do you call a male ballerina?
I think a male ballerina. I think they're called
so.
ballerinas.
I'm not sure.
But anyway, male ballet dancers, I think they have a beard sometimes in character. But I think it would probably slow you down. Normal. And this guy at this point is dragging on the floor. He'd be on point and on top of his own beard.
I can see him doing interpretive dance though, just moving with the wind.
But I also think that Iranian, because it's so sad when you get into this stuff with the revolution. I should get to the interview. But I was just going to say, Iranians don't. One of the reasons they don't know the ballet dancer. I mean, they probably don't know a lot of hip hop. A lot of dancers in general. We have friends who are great dancers in the Iranian community who are not as well known as other kinds of cultural leaders. In our community, and you can kind of go, okay, well, because 42 years ago, this was cut off at the knees, all puns intended, in Iran. It's become out of sight, out of mind, and so the dancing that people think of is
Baba
Karam is the pre-1979, and the stuff and because it just hasn't been a real community within Iran. I mean, even as pop music has climbed its way back into the imagination of folks in Iran and the reality of folks in Iran, dance, no. Right? No. So it's just not top of mind. There's the culture of let's go see a dance performance exist, I guess, as much, right? Like, and if now that I think about it, I don't know a lot of Iranian. I know they do, but I don't know a lot of Iranians in our community that go, who are eager to go to the National Ballet of Canada, and see.
Agreed.
I mean,
do you know how much trouble I have every season trying to find someone to go with?
But that's because you date the wrong people. You don't date cultural
Even
people.
friends.
You are interested in culture, but you date guys who are not.
No, man. Even like my Persian friends, none of them have any interest in the opera, the ballet, art galleries. I don't know. It's just, what is it?
Yeah.
Is it my generation?
No. You're absolutely right. Art is a bit different. I feel like art galleries, like I feel like Iranians are a little bit more,
Right.
because that has sustained somehow,
But opera and ballet is a generational thing, because I think even in Canada, like the ticket is like much cheaper if you're under 30 and you're trying to buy
Exactly.
tickets.
It's an
No, for
incentive,
sure, for sure. That's one of the classic, what they, the as they call it, quote unquote, the high arts.
Yeah.
One of the challenges is, I was on the Stratford board for years. It was always, how do we get young people to come see the theater at Stratford and things like that, and same with the National Ballet. But it is there's cultural virtue to going to these things that I feel like is absent in some of these are generalizations, obviously. If you're Iranian listening to this somewhere in the world going, I always go to the ballet, that's true, but that you do exist. But I don't think, anyway, all of this circles back to someone like Yasmin, who I just want the whole world to know about, because I'm so proud of. I mean, let's see how the interview goes. Maybe
I'm sure
maybe I won't be as proud of her after.
No, she looks lovely. She looks like.
Don't
the true
judge people on
definition.
the basis of their looks.
Well, she looks like a ballerina.
That's what she does for a living. Judges people based on their looks.
We are coming to you on rookmedia.com. It's there that you can link to all of our platforms. We're on an ongoing mission to build a new audiovisual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity. Coming to you on Spotify, on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, CastBox. If you like to see some visuals with Rook, switch over to YouTube right now, where you can see pictures of Yasmine Naghdi. And if you like your Rook descriptions and bulletins in English and Persian, check us out on Telegram. All of those are at Rook Media. And we would love you to become a patron of our show. So how do you support Rook? You go to our website, rookmedia.com. Press the button on the top right-hand corner that says support us, funny enough. And for a monthly fee of any amount that you want, starting at $5, $10, some folks do a couple $100 a month, you can become a patron. We would love you to. And any amount means a lot to us. I had a good weekend, amongst other reasons why. Arsenal. I mean, the boys, the shit I've taken from you, Peanut Gallery folks, for loving Arsenal so much. The comeback boys were in the top 5 in the Premier League now.
Yeah, finally.
I wore my jersey all weekend. I was actually really, and it's funny because I post about Arsenal on some of my social media. I don't really do a lot of social media, but I'm starting to find Iranians now who are Arsenal.
I was going to ask you, who do you watch these games with? Oogie? Is you an Oogie?
Oogie is an Arsenal fan. No, actually, I know about. I mean, I watch with other friends who are into soccer.
Okay, just not Arsenal specifically.
But no, I have some. I know
you do?
specific folks
Good.
who are Arsenal fans.
As long as you're not alone.
But I was gonna. Sometimes I'm alone, and I'm fine with that. I'm happy to watch. I actually kind of like watching football. I don't like distractions. So, yeah, if you're going to watch it with me, you can't be yammering
Keep your
on.
mouth shut.
Yeah, that's right. So, Afshin Naghdi, the fabulous painter in the UK.
Yeah.
Huge Arsenal fan.
No way.
Yes.
Way. He's an Arsenal fan.
He is. Layli Bazargan.
She's on an Arsenal fan too?
Layli's a diehard Arsenal
kidding me?
fan. It used to be on, she's a TV personality and an artist herself. And, of course, with Shaheen Najafi, Layli is a partner of his. She is, not a partner, a partner. His partner.
One of his Hamer
One of the many
girls.
partners that Shaheen. Layli's a big, and then, when I was in Istanbul, and some of the folks of Rastok were in Istanbul, and I was hanging out with them, and I made Farzad Remember Farzad
I
from
remember,
Rastock?
yeah,
He's the lead singer and plays. I made him. I didn't make him. But he's kind of a football fan, so I was like, "You got to watch an Arsenal game with me." So now he's become this Arsenal guy. He claims that he, in deference to me, so such a sweetheart, that he's now thrown in with Arsenal, and so he's like texting me in the middle of games, like all excited, from Iran, from Turkey, wherever he is.
Look at that. You found your own people.
I have
That's
found
wonderful.
my people. You know how good that feels? Combination of Arsenal, musician,
And it's converting
artist.
people too.
Yeah, that's right.
But he won't get to us, let me tell you that.
That's right. Well, Keon, you'll have to understand the rules of soccer
I do.
before
I used
you.
to play it.
That's
actually.
right. You used to play.
Yes.
Now that I can see you doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd be terrified.
I played it
against-
wrong. I tackled girls.
We should do a co-ed game with Keon.
That's what I've been saying, but you guys are too
I'm scared to play against
Exactly.
Keon.
Me too, actually.
I'm
So
a
I
pretty
wanna
good
be on the
soccer
same
player,
team.
but I feel like there'll be like red cards handed out, and we'll be limping off the field.
You know,
She'll be hospitalized.
I was watching UFC on the weekend, and there's Thug. What's her name? Rose. She's like the
Yeah.
UFC champion. I
Mixed
was watching-
martial arts like that, yeah.
and honestly, I watch her with envy. That should have been me.
Wow. You can still do
my mom
that.
allowed. No,
Can't you do
it's
that?
too
No.
late, man.
That ship has sailed.
But yeah, well, my mom never let me get into like boxing, martial arts, and all that. But anyway, typical Persian mom.
I should mention for this episode, big shout out to Farid Emeryoun and York National Realty for helping to bring this episode of Rook to your ears and eyes. York National Realty, a boutique real estate company based in Aurora, Ontario, Canada, that provides top-tier service with its team of Farid, Sean Fadavi, and Nahal Soltani. They're a full-service realty firm that's there for everyone, from first-time home buyers to investors. Keon,
Investors are
looking
good.
from
They're
first-time home buyers, Reza,
Yes.
to investors, Keon,
Yes.
looking for new opportunities in the communities they serve, and for folks who like to just visit homes. Shia? Yeah, I was trying to, how do I include Shia? And for folks who will never have a chance of buying a house. Shia? Farid and his team have also made it their mission to give back to the Iranian community and the diaspora. They supported a number of Persian community events and projects. Listen, if you're looking for real estate, this boutique firm, especially if you're in the Aurora, Richmond Hill, Newmarket area, this is the firm where you should go. York National Realty, Farid, Sean, and Nahal at York National Realty, yorknational.com. Hey, this Contemporary History of Iran series that we're doing on Thursdays continues to chug along and get a lot of attention. So last week we did the creation of Qanun.
Yeah.
And it's been, I know you have some letters
Oh,
to
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It was really, it's funny because when that subject came up as one of the possibilities of something we're going to do for the Contemporary History of Iran, which we call CHOI, because the acronym of Contemporary History of Iran spells CHOI, for CHOI, I was like, really, people are going to be interested in a schooling system of teaching kids creativity, and you guys, or at least like Savi Roham and Ahai Mehrdad, and like we're all dewy-eyed. There was like tears, and what's this thing? It's so beautiful. And I see that now that we've done the episode with Lily Amir Arjaman, who was one of the creators, one of the founders. People have this beautiful connection to Qanun. It meant so much to them. This, what started as a children's library and then became this, creative network that still exists for kids in Iran to learn about arts, culture, poetry, etc. Right?
Yeah. When you first mentioned it, I was like, really, a school?
We're kids of the diaspora. We don't know this stuff. Yeah.
That episode was probably one of my favorites. Just like how much it meant to those kids, I can't even imagine that beautiful cultural space. Oh,
Yeah.
And
Very
because
touching.
it continued post-revolution, a lot of like kids that were born after the revolution, like myself, like everybody is aware of it. They either were involved or were part of it. They attended it or took courses and stuff.
I'm not sure if it's a promotion for Qanun to say you attended.
I didn't attend.
Oh, okay.
so-
That's why. That's all right. That's
See,
what happened.
If that happened in a European country or in the U.S., it would be a movie. It would be like turned into a movie. But because it's in a, like, somebody should make a movie out of that. Reza,
if what happened?
the
Reza
whole
not going?
the story of Qanun, like how much it changed
Yes.
so many kids' lives.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
a beautiful
Yeah.
story.
Well, Maybe we have a filmmaker amongst us.
Yes,
Yes,
right.
yeah, raise the money, and I'd be more than glad
See,
to.
you immediately go to that instead of
What
thinking
are you
about
gonna-
the beautiful creativity
I
of what
would
you could do.
love to think about
Hey, if you guys want to pay me, I'll.
No, it's not about paying me. It costs money to do it.
So this week on the Contemporary History of Iran, ready? The
Yes.
story of Kayhan.
Ooh,
Oh.
Kehan the magazine.
Well, the newspaper,
The
right?
newspaper.
A daily newspaper that it did spawn some magazines and all that. But Kayhan this year is 80 years in existence. Now, there's an asterisk on that because obviously the Kayhan that exists post 1979 is a very different Kayhan from pre 1979. But the story of how this daily newspaper, which at one point at its peak in the 60s and 70s was the most important and influential newspaper of the Middle East, we have somebody who is an historic figure directly tied to Kayhan coming on for the Contemporary History of Iran this Thursday.
What's the name? Can we get the name? or
Nope.
Not? Okay.
No.
Well, that's you got to tune in Thursday,
Good
Keon.
talk.
Drum rolls.
All right, you got some letters compiled?
Yeah. Yes, I
All right,
do.
we'll get to the letters after our feature guest. Thank you, the Groovy Shaya, the Captain Reza, and the fabulous Keon. See you guys in a little bit. My featured guest today is a superstar British ballerina of Iranian descent with a Persian dad and a Belgian mom, and she has the distinction of being the first Persian ballerina and the only Middle Eastern ballerina to be in the Royal Ballet Company. Yasmine Naghdi was born in London, England, and was on stage performing by the age of 8. She ended up getting into the Royal Ballet School and becoming a full-time company member at only 17 years old. In 2010, that is, after winning the Young British Dancer of the Year competition. In 2017, at 24 years of age, she became the principal dancer of the Royal Ballet in the UK. Her major roles have included Odette and Odile in Swan Lake, Aurora in The Sleeping Beauty, Juliet in Romeo and Juliet, the Sugar Plum Fairy in The Nutcracker, Kitri in Don Quixote, Tatiana in Onegin, and The Firebird, to name just a few. And she's performed worldwide in New York, Chicago, Washington, San Francisco, Tokyo, Osaka, Shanghai, Moscow, Monaco, Madrid, Barcelona, etc. A new book about Yasmin's life entitled Tears of a Ballet Mom and written by her mother will be in bookstores and Amazon at the end of this month. And Yasmin's upcoming performance in the romantic ballet Giselle on the Covent Garden stage will be streamed worldwide. But first, right now, Yasmine Naghdi joins me from London, England today. Hello.
Hello, what an introduction. Thank you so much.
So thrilled to have you on the show. Thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure.
You know, last month you had your first full-length performance back in the Royal Opera House since February of 2020. That must have been a thrill. How did it feel?
It was an absolute thrill. I mean, we missed it terribly. It was a real void for all of us. It was such a different life that we all had to go through. So to finally get back on stage doing what we're so used to doing was really an incredible feeling. And to hear a full auditorium of applause, that was amazing. Because we had little experiences here and there where we did performances amongst, stopping and starting all of the lockdowns that we had, but we had a 50% capacity audience. So that was very, very different a sound, a very different sound. It's absolutely fantastic to be back and doing what we love.
And it was Romeo and Juliet you did, right?
Yes, that's right. Romeo and Juliet.
It's an interesting one because you first performed the role of Juliet with the Royal Ballet when you were 22. And so recently you've just danced Juliet again. Does your approach to the role change as you get older? I mean, I'm thinking of that, and I think it's a narrative ballet. So you're telling a story. Is the story different for you at 29?
Well, it's a very good thing to point out. Obviously, we grow as artists, we mature. A lot has happened in the last few years. I'd say, I definitely approach it in a different way, but I try and keep the same essence that I had the very first time. Because, of course, Juliet is a role where she's very young, she's effervescent, she's got a spring in her step, she's quite naive. And I think it's important to hold on to those feelings of youth as one gets older. But I think it's nice that we can bring a maturity to the way we approach a role, but it's important to keep the essence.
By the way, I didn't mean to be implying you're old. You're clearly not, although Although in ballet years, I guess you're middle-aged or something, right? That role, though, Juliet, must also have some sentimental value for you, as it was one of your first big opportunities dancing for the Royal Ballet, yes?
Absolutely. Every time I revisit this role, it does feel special. It's like coming home to, it's that kind of baby that you revive every time you revisit a role. It's something that is really true to my heart. I feel very comfortable in this role, and I love that because it is a narrative ballet, that I can approach it in different ways every single time, that it doesn't have to be so specific, that I can, the potion scene at the end, you can do it in so many different ways. And that's what keeps it really interesting, that it's different every single show.
Yasmin, you talk about how good it felt to be back on stage. I mean, coming out of the pandemic must have some exuberance for you, because I can only imagine you've had such a rigid and structured schedule for most of your life, training since you were a kid. What was it like to suddenly have to rethink your days? There's no rehearsals, there's no performances, pretty much for the first time in your life, right? For many, many years. Did you go through some kind of A-type personality withdrawal?
I think at first it was a really welcome break, I have to admit, because we were really working at 100 miles an hour. So for me, it was kind of, I can have some time to breathe. So I quite enjoyed having a little break. But then, of course, the reality set in that this was going to take a lot longer than we first expected. And the Zoom ballet classes began, and the yoga and the Pilates and strength training. And then, of course, the deadline of when we thought we would maybe come back and start dancing Swan Lake again, we were told that that wouldn't happen and that we would have the summer break. So, of course, there were days where I woke up and I thought, I can't face dancing in my living room again. And I feel like I approached it quite well. I took it upon myself, just don't feel pressure, just take the day. If you're having a low day, just take it. I was really enjoying cooking, as everyone was during the pandemic. I did do a banana bread. And I was also studying Italian language. So I was keeping myself busy with things here and there.
It is particularly impressive. I mean, look, everyone had to deal with the pandemic, and obviously folks lost their jobs or even worse, lost their lives with COVID. But so we don't want to overplay the drama of it. But, thinking about someone who is, you've said you depend on structure. You need a schedule and a to-do list to get, you say, to even get through the most basic things in life. So what is a normal day for you in a non-pandemic period?
I completely agree. It's we really depend on that structure. And for me, when I'm approaching my day in a non-pandemic way, I love approaching it as I prepare for a role. For example, now working towards Giselle, I put great importance on doing a lot of jumping, a lot of jump preparation, because there are a lot of jumps involved in this ballet, keeping my endurance up, my stamina. I'd be going to the gym, doing things like leg press to prepare my legs for the impact, calf raises with extra weight. And of course, when the pandemic hit, everything comes to a halt, and we didn't have that striving to prepare for a role. So there wasn't anything motivating us anymore. It was just wake up and do some dancing to keep your body ticking over. So that was what was really hard at times, to just go and face a computer and do a ballet class for the sake of doing a ballet class. That was what was quite hard sometimes.
But I do think that, my pet theory is that for the most part, there's exceptions to this, but for the most part, very successful people tend to be very organized people. And I know that you're very organized. Are you like this in all aspects of your life? Like you recently got engaged. Will you be OCD about the nuptials with your fiance? How structured are you in terms of needing that rigidity?
I promise not to be a bridezilla, but I'm definitely organized. The partner I'm dancing with on stage, Matthew Ball for Giselle, he said to me yesterday, actually, he was like, Yasmin, I've never seen you in a ripped up outfit or anything that's old or a bit rugged. He was like, you're always really well put together. And, at first I thought, oh, thank you. I mean, it's not a conscious effort. It's just the way I like to be. I like to be very organized and put together. It's how I feel myself. But in terms of, preparations for a wedding, we're taking it quite slowly, and we're going to do it in 2 years' time. But no, I'm quite laid back with that, actually, for now. Maybe closer to the time I'll become a little bit more.
Do you need to, do you need to make your bed every day? Do you leave dishes in the sink? I mean, how particular are you?
Yeah, I make my bed absolutely every day, and I can't leave the house with dishes in the sink. So that gives you an idea. And the throw on the bed has to be completely in line. And yeah, so that's me.
And that is in line with the perfectionism that the ballet demands. Let's get to that in a little while, because I want to ask you about that. First, take me back to how this all happened for you. I mean, the story is that you were a hyperactive kid, and that watching the ballet on TV was the one thing that would calm you down. Is that really a true story?
So the first ballet I saw on TV was a William Forsythe ballet, contemporary ballet called In the Middle Somewhat Elevated. And it's kind of in the name. It's very, very different. It's not a classical ballet. It wasn't tutus and tiaras. It was the athleticism. And the music to me was terrifying. I found it really scary. It was quite disjointed, erratic. And I found it so interesting, the athleticism of these dancers, that I just kind of stood still in front of the TV watching these dancers. So I quite like that it's not a tutu and tiara situation.
But it's true that this would become a thing, like your parents to, if they wanted to shut Yasmin down, would just put the ballet on the TV? Is that?
I think it wouldn't be as easy as that. Like you said, I was very hyperactive. I started doing gymnastics. That was the first outlet of energy trial they did with me. And then ballet followed as a friend did it, and I wanted to do it as well. And the combination, I just remember the combination of music and movement and the focus, that I became very concentrated at that moment. And it was off from there. I absolutely gelled with it from the first lesson. I loved the energy outlet. I loved the music. And I was very musical at school as well. I did singing, violin, piano. So it gelled very, very easily.
And you would do these little performances for your parents?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Every Saturday night, I'd tell them to all sit down and watch my performances, and I would just go crazy. And then my sister would come and kind of push me over, and, I'd get very upset. She ruined my performance.
It was prescribed. It was Saturday nights. Did you actually have a particular performance? Like you had prepared?
I think my parents just put on some music and I would just go.
And were you actually doing ballet at that point already, or were you just sort of any kind of movement, holding the crowd?
I thought it was ballet. It could have been anything, to be honest, but it was constant movement and legs up here and arms moving around there. So yeah, climbing door frames and dancing on tables and the whole lot.
By the way, the idea of a hyperactive kid is so incongruous with the smooth and, romantic idea of a ballerina for me. I don't know why. Does it make sense to you?
Well, I would say yes. I mean, I think most children tend to be hyperactive, and not that it's a way to tame a child, but I would say that it kind of soothes that hyperactivity. It gets out of the system what a child would need, that energy outlet completely, and gives the child a focus. And ballet itself requires a lot of dedication and focus. And it comes with the nature of dance. So it's a really great art form for a child, not necessarily to pursue, to do in the future, but it gives a child a really great dedication and focus. And you can carry that through life with you, with whatever you do. So
it's one thing to love ballet as a hobby. It's quite another to approach it as a career. I mentioned in the introduction that you're the first person of Persian descent in the Royal Ballet. The Persian is on your dad's side. And it sounds like he was pretty Persian about things early on, saying that this was not a career that, you needed to go to university. Thankfully, he and your mom have obviously supported your journey in ballet from when you were a kid. How did he come around?
completely right. There was a big discussion, and I remember him saying, you're very good at history. You need to pursue this. You need to go down the academic route. You don't want to throw that away. But, luckily my parents are so good at kind of discussing these things, and they thought, who are we to determine what our child does in her future? And if she wants to do this and it doesn't work out, then we're there to support her no matter what. So there's always a backup plan. And I remember 2 years into my training at White Lodge Lower School, which is the Royal Ballet School, from the age of 11 to 16. When I did my first 2 years there, she looked at me and said, if you ever don't want to do this or it doesn't make you happy, you can always stop. And I looked at her and I said, don't ever doubt. This is what I want to do. And you saying this to me shows that you're doubting what I want to do. And she was, completely taken back at that. And she holds that very dear to, I think she mentions that in her book as well, that moment, because it was really coming from a child that was 13, 14 years old, quite a strong statement to say, like, don't doubt me. This is what I want to do.
I mean, just to press pause on the interview for a second and say, there's so... we so often on this program, when we're talking about people of Persian descent in the diaspora, talk about the pressure that is put on Persian kids to be a doctor or engineer. And it just becomes this kind of norm. It's almost like a joke every time. My parents wanted me to be a doctor and engineer. But the pressure is real and oftentimes effective. I mean, the kid, doesn't go into the arts. I had to fight to go into the arts with my parents. And you're an example of what we would lose if you had been forced to go into, forget even history, but to go into engineering or something like that. Not that there's anything wrong with engineering, but here you are, you're literally one of the best in the world at what you do. And we wouldn't have that if you weren't allowed to pursue where your heart was going.
That's true. I know it's crazy to think that, but parents hold such an important role in what their children become. And like you said, I think it's really important that parents are encouraged and are sensitive to what their children are good at. And I hope that in the future, whatever the future holds for me, that I can be that for whatever happens.
I know they're incredibly supportive for you. They actually help facilitate this interview, your parents. They're clearly really involved and proud of you. Tell me about your relationship with them as you've become this professional now.
So my parents were very, very present in my ballet training. And my dad was always the comforter. And my mum was she almost became a bit of a coach for me. And I think that has helped me greatly, just like famous tennis players that have coaches, football players that have coaches. We don't have that so much in the ballet world. We don't have a mentor as such. So to have my mum there doing everything she could, reading up on sports psychology, on nutrition, on performance recovery. She did everything she absolutely could to give herself the most knowledge possible to then aid me with my journey. And I'm forever grateful for her doing that, because I had some low moments, of course, with, teachers that I didn't get along with, or moments where I felt like maybe I'm not cut out for this, maybe it's not what I should pursue anymore. And she always kind of was, I call her my guardian angel, or my fairy godmother, that she was always there to kind of pick up the pieces, put me back together, and help me onwards and upwards. So I definitely wouldn't be where I am without their support. And I'm very, very grateful for that.
How much did your dad teach you about being Iranian? Have you been to Iran? Did he ever take you to Iran?
I have. I think I've been on 2 occasions when I was really little. And I have some very clear memories of being in a carpet shop. That's one very, very clear memory I have. And then that there were some beautiful fountains there with lights. And I remember as a kid, that was what I was fascinated by. And of course, seeing photos of being in these beautiful places, that kind of brings back some memories. And I remember being on a swing in the house that his family have. And there are all these children around me just touching my skin, because I had slightly lighter skin than everyone else. So they were kind of all fascinated by my skin. And I remember being really scared by it. But he made sure I could have the pronunciation. So he would make me do the exercises for the pronunciation of the words to make sure that I could pronounce. I could speak Farsi, but he didn't do so much as to teach it to me properly. He kind of didn't see the point.
But he does call you Yasmine when he's angry at you.
Yasmine, yes. That's when I've done something wrong. Otherwise, it's Yassi at home.
Right. You start your vocational training at the Royal Ballet School in 2004. I mean, that would make you around 11 years old. You appear on stage at the Royal Opera House at 11 in Cinderella. You make an appearance in Swan Lake at age 12. What was it like to be a kid performing in that kind of venue and at that kind of level?
I mean, when you think about it that way, it's so young to be on stage and doing such amazing productions on a world stage. But I was very lucky that I went to a dance school that did a lot of performances when we were young. So I was quite used to performing already, also having done my performances for my family at home every Saturday night. But I was quite easy on stage. I didn't suffer so much from stage fright, which was quite lucky. So when it came to things like auditions or our yearly appraisals, I was able to keep my nerves quite at bay, which I'm really grateful for now, especially after the pandemic, having had such a break from the stage. It was interesting to see that a bit more nerves crept in because we weren't as used to performing as much. So I'm grateful that I can draw upon my younger years where I kind of was carefree performing on stage.
You know, Yasmin, we hear about all the nightmarish pressure put on young people, young girls, going into fields like ballet, from disciplinarian coaches to being told how they should look, what they should weigh. How aware were you of that kind of pressure we've heard about in the past, and did you have to face it?
I would say I was incredibly lucky. I am incredibly lucky. I never really had to watch my weight. I was naturally very slim, and especially going through a growth spurt, I often had people worried whether, I was eating enough. To which my mum would reply, "You don't know, she eats a lot of food." I'm a passionate foodie. I love cooking. I love good food. I grew up with a lot of my dad's Persian dishes like abgusht, khoresh karafs, all of these amazing dishes that I have yet to master myself. But I was lucky that I never had to watch what I ate. And especially now when our workload goes up, I have to make sure I eat even more. And my fiance, who's Italian, he thought when we were first dating, he thought, oh, good, I'm dating a ballet dancer. She'll give me more of her food. When actually, I tend to take more of his. He's a bit disappointed by that.
But what about the long hours? I mean, when you look back at it, even your experience when you were 10 or something, is it something that we should rethink or be concerned about in terms of the pressure that people are put into, or were you again immune to that because the Royal Ballet system has sort of weeded that out somehow?
It's an interesting question. If I look back on it, and I remember thinking, wow, this workload is really heavy. And even continuing through to the upper school at the age of 16, where the workload then again went up for young adolescents who, are going through puberty and all types of changes, hormone changes and everything. It is a heavy, heavy workload. But would I change it? Maybe the approach in terms of recovery time, because we have a lot more knowledge now on sports science and how important recovery is for muscles, for longevity. But I think it was necessary because it does prepare the dancer for a professional career. And some of the demands that I've had to go through where I thought, oh my gosh, I have a performance this evening and I've been killed throughout the day with rehearsals. I don't know where it's going to come from. Right. And they can say dancers are superhuman. We find the strength from somewhere to dance. Having the recovery time after is not always there. And that is something that I think we could change in the future. But I would say that looking back in the past, the hours were necessary to prepare us for what we do now.
What about mental anxiety? I mean, most kids don't need to audition each year to go to school. When I finished grade 9, I didn't have to audition to go into grade 10 at my public school. All the way up to, you were auditioning the whole way from, one school to another to getting to the main company. How stressful was it to be a kid constantly getting evaluated on being good enough to get into each new level of school?
It is definitely a big pressure for a child, and children are going through all changes throughout different ages. But it's definitely a tough one to deal with. And I think if you haven't got that support from home, it makes it even harder. Then, you need the support with friends, which again, obviously it's a very competitive environment. That's not always there. You have to draw strength from yourself. But if a child doesn't have the knowledge and the support that's been given to them to support themselves, where are they going to get it from? So there, I think we're in the conversation of we need more psychology to help children support themselves along their journey.
Do you lament that you didn't have or couldn't have a quote unquote normal childhood, hanging out at malls, dating, eating junk food? I don't know, staying out late, watching movies. I mean, were there moments while you were doing it or in retrospect that you look back and go, I wish I had experienced more of that?
I think I definitely didn't have a normal teenage years of just, but in all honesty, I really wasn't the type to go for that. So I think this lifestyle suited me quite well. I was very diligent at school. I wanted to do my best at everything I could, the academics and the ballet side, and also to look after myself, having the rest. So I didn't feel I missed out too much because that it wasn't really in my personality to go crazy partying and staying out late, etc., etc. It wasn't who I was. So in all honesty, I don't think I missed out on that too much. Where I think it got a bit difficult was in my early years in the company, when I was in the corps de ballet, for example, where you're a young adult. There, I felt like, wow, now I want to go and kind of be in the city and have a bit of a social life and meet people outside of the dance world. Yet you're on every single night because you're one of those 24 swans. So that's where I think I thought, the struggle is there. And on a Saturday night, we want to go and have drinks together and celebrate shows finishing, but you're exhausted and you should be recovering. There, you just have to find the balance to get that.
Not only that, but you joined the Royal Ballet at 17, which is very young. I can only imagine that it would get lonely being the youngest in the company. Like everybody sort of pats you on the head, but doesn't want to take you out and corrupt you, right? So you're sort of by yourself in the middle of all that.
Yes. For me, it was a difficult transition because when I started my second year at the Royal Ballet School, upper school, I was 16, turning 17, and I got moved up a year into the third year. So there already I rocked the boat because I came in as the younger one into the graduating year group. And then I got my contract early that year and I joined in April. So what was meant to be a 3-year upper school, I did it in a year and a half and then joined the Royal Ballet at the age of 17. And again, it's a new transition where I joined a year group and then I joined a company. And of course, it was halfway through a year, which is quite rare. Usually new joiners start in September. So I didn't join with a group of people where it was kind of like minds, stick together. I was very much alone. And exactly like you said, it was difficult to join groups because the new joiners that year, they'd already formed their group. And then you're amongst this corps de ballet of women of all ages and all different points of their life. So it was a difficult adjustment for me to kind of fit in at first.
I want to ask you about that. I want to ask you about how it felt when you finally got to the top of the proverbial mountain. I mean, I mentioned that you win the Young British Dancer of the Year competition in 2009. It's only 6 or 7 years later that you are promoted to the Royal Ballet's highest rank to become a principal ballerina. one would assume that this would be the dream of a dancer who's worked so very hard for a lifetime, albeit a short lifetime. You're in your early 20s at that point. Did it feel like you were living your dream, or could you stop and even smell the roses, or does it for that matter?
Well, of course, it's an amazing feeling, an indescribable feeling. It feels like it's a culmination of all the hard work that you've done from day one has led up to this moment, and you've achieved this dream, this goal, this ultimate goal that I always had set for myself. But you never know whether it's really going to happen for you. A lot has to do with timing and luck and, right place, right time. But when I was told of my promotion, I just thought, wow, this feels incredible. But then, of course, you have the other reality that sets in of now the work begins again. In every single rank, there's that feeling of, okay, now I have to prove that I'm worthy of being a principal, and I'm joining a rank where there are already so many established principals ahead of me, and you have to find your place again. So you have to reinvent yourself, and you have to kind of, again, there's a lot of trust. You need a lot of trust in yourself. And in my first year of being a principal, that was the year I found the hardest, because I thought, it was all about, I have to prove I'm worth being a principal dancer here, and feeling comfortable enough with having less performances, less stage opportunities when I was used to being on in every single production. So all of a sudden you're less used to being on stage, but you're dancing as a principal, you're being judged as a principal, you're not getting an opportunity as a first soloist, as a dancer getting, their shot. So now you had to kind of show that you're worthy of your position.
It's a perfect segue for me to come back to. I mentioned I want to come back to perfectionism, and you've said ballet is always striving for perfection, quote unquote. It's not unlike our Persian side too, which is, Dad, I got an A. That is great, but Reza, he got the A plus. It's like, I still have to keep going here. It's impressive to be striving for perfection, but it's also daunting. Can Yasmin, can you ever be totally happy with yourself in a performance if you're thinking about something that you can do better?
It's taken a pandemic for me to step back and look at how I approach my work. And it's been an interesting change. I feel like I'm getting there, but it's only happened now. And there were times whilst having been a principal a few years ago where, I would come off for performances and just think, it was good, but there was that one moment, and that one moment I hold on to and I'm upset for weeks. Or, if something goes really well, I think, oh, that's great. Okay, on to the next thing. And I thought that's such a backward way of thinking. You do something good and you kind of push it aside, and you do a little hiccup here and there and you focus on that for weeks on end. So when we came back from the pandemic, this was before the summer, so we'd had the 3 lockdowns and we have our 50% audience in, I felt more anxiety than usual, and I wasn't enjoying my performances as I used to. And I took a step back and I thought, this is not okay. This is not a good way for me to continue my career feeling this way. So step back, readdress. What do I need to change about the way I'm thinking and approaching my performances? And it's exactly what you're saying. I had to let go of that perfectionist trait. I had to stop telling myself if I had a little slip, if I didn't hold a balance as much as I wanted to, I can't hold on to that because life's too short. And I'm getting better. I have to say, I'm better at shaking things off. If something happens, c'est la vie, we move on. And at the end of the day, we're all human beings. I'm not a robot. It can't be absolutely perfect every time. And I think it would be boring if it was too perfect. So yes, striving for that perfection of reaching our ultimate limit in everything we do. But I've let go of that everything has to be perfect. I don't mind a little rough at the edges. I think it's more important to let yourself go and allow your soul to be free on stage. I think that will radiate more to the audience than a step perfect show.
Can you admit how good you are? I mean, can you admit to yourself and the world for that matter that you're literally one of the best in the world at what you do?
I'll never say that. I could never say that.
Why wouldn't you say that?
It's the impossible thing to ask a dancer, I think. I think a lot of people would agree, it's very hard for us to say, I'm great. You know, I think I have a long way to go. I have a lot to work on. I have a lot of growth to do. You'll never hear me saying, I'm great. It's a constant, you know, work in progress. And I can find ways of being happy with the performance I've done. I can be proud of myself. But it stops there, I think.
Wait a second. You can't say it because you're bashful, you feel kind of modest, you don't want to say it, or you're not sure you believe it?
That's a hard one.
Because on the other hand, you have to know how good you are to be able to get up and do what you do too, right? You can't. There's got to be some spine of confidence in you, for surely, to get up and dominate the Royal Opera House.
Absolutely, I think there's a lot of trust and a lot of practice that goes into feeling like you've prepared yourself for what you're going to go on and do. And I'd say I'd emphasize the trust, because I go on there breathing, keeping my nerves at bay, trusting myself. You've put in the work, you've earned your place, and you're going to go on and perform, and just let yourself go and trust that it's going to be okay, and trust that if things go wrong, it doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world.
Or that you can handle it. You're going to be able to handle it.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, one of the things I love about interviewing athletes, great athletes, and you're a great athlete. I mean, you're a dancer, but what you do is obviously so athletic, is the counterintuitive nature of how psychological what you do is. You know, there's the physical challenge, the stamina, the strength to get through these marathon performances in some case, but you've described the biggest challenge as a mind game of enabling your body to do all of that. Tell me about the mind and the body needing to work together.
It's a very important marriage, I'd say, the mind and the body. And I pay great importance to preparation, mental preparation before big performances. So obviously the food is very important. I always have a risotto before a really big ballet, 3 hours before the show. It's kind of the perfect recipe for me to have that long-lasting energy. And the mental preparation comes with the night before. I will plug in the music, go through the whole ballet with my eyes closed, and try and do everything as step perfect as possible, striving for it. And then the day of the show, I'll do the same thing, go through it mentally. So that way I don't fatigue my legs, I don't fatigue my body. I'm just rehearsing it in my mind. And it's comparing it to, you know, if you allow a bull in a bull ring the night before, it's their territory. So I like to think of it in that way, that I'm kind of familiarizing my mind with what I'm about to go on and do.
You seem to thrive on, I mean, I know Sleeping Beauty and Swan Lake are two of the hardest classical ballets in the repertoire, and you like doing them. You like the challenge. What is it about pushing yourself that appeals to you so much?
They are definitely two of the hardest ballets I've ever done. I like the technicality. I like the feeling, that drive of to keep pushing through it, to achieve those pinnacle moments when the rose adage in the Sleeping Beauty, when that goes well and I feel like I'm on my balance, it's such a sense of achievement and pride that I think, you know, pat on the back, you know, you've done a good job. And to get through a marathon like that and to be happy with what I've done, that's what I strive for, to feel the audience with me. And there is that sense of, you can feel whether the audience is with you or it's not. And that's that helps the drive throughout the performance as well. With Swan Lake has been so present in my life in so many stages. It was the first ballet I saw live. It was one of the ballets that I featured in as a baby swan when I was at White Lodge at the age of 14. And I managed to dance the main role in my first year as a principal dancer. And it just came so full circle that I watched a documentary that I featured in when I was a baby swan at the age of 14. And there I'm interviewed and I say, you know, it would be a dream for me to dance this role one day. And I rewatched that before I had my debut, and I thought, wow, if I could tell that little girl that one day you will. So, you know, it's really moving when things like that happen. But to go back on your point of them being so supremely difficult and classical, I love the challenge. It drives me to just get better than myself every single time. And when you've got those fouettes and you're exhausted and you can't see and you achieve them, it's an incredible feeling.
Again, I mean, it's an interesting insight into you. Again, you can get to the top of the mountain, but you're not satisfied to just rest there. You want the challenge. And you're exerting, you're pushing yourself. You posted recently on Instagram, Yasmin. You said, I want to quote you, "Thank you, feet, ankles, legs, and hips, for allowing me to push your limits." And you then say, I wonder if they had a voice, what they might say in return. So what do you think your own body would say to you?
I think a lot of the time they'd be like, "Stop, please." Yeah, I definitely push them to their limits sometimes, but it's a funny thing. Again, it's that mind-body connection. I like to think that if I'm in contact with my feet and I thank them and I'm grateful, that they'll keep with me, that we'll stay a team. And if ever there's a little niggle, I call it, or an injury, you know, I kind of talk to it and say, you know, come on, you're doing so well, you can do this. And I think it's that positive affirmation. I believe that it does something to your body, that you're kind of connected. So I like to think that way, a bit spiritual maybe.
By the way, you've mentioned food a couple of times in this interview. I'd be remiss if I didn't pick up on that. I love how you are undermining the stereotype of ballerinas not ever eating or eating enough. Your love of making pasta at home, the risotto you mentioned. I also read that you always have a steak the night before a performance. Is that true?
Yes, it is. Sorry to any vegans and vegetarians out there.
What's that about?
Well, obviously it's got a very, very high iron content. And I'm just, disclaimer, I'm not a nutritionist, so I'm not giving this advice to anyone, but this is just what works for me. I genuinely feel a difference. If I have a steak the night before and I dance the next day, I really feel stronger. And I know I've read up a lot about veganism, and you can get the same with beans and pulses, etc. But I find this works for me, and I don't have that much red meat. It's just before a big performance, something like Swan Lake or Beauty, I do have a big steak with a bunch of pesto pasta. That's my go-to night before meal, and the day of the show is the risotto. And
again, Ricky, the fiance, thought that you were going to shave off a little piece of the steak and give the rest to him, and
yeah, no chance.
He's not. Is he a dancer, by the way?
No, he's not a dancer. No.
Was that a conscious choice? I'm not going to end up with a dancer.
No. It just kind of, I guess you just meet who you meet, but I'm grateful to have that, because I feel it gives me balance. I like having the separation of my ballet life and my outside life. I feel like that helps me. It helps me to have that separated. It kind of recharges me come the summer holiday. I do pay great importance to taking a break. You hear of all these dancers, that just never stop. I pay great importance to having that break, be it 1 week or two. And we've been very fortunate. The upside of the pandemic is having a bit more time free to be able to take those breaks. And that recharges me and resets me. And, sometimes at the end of the day, if I've been focused on my work and there's this, that, and the other, to come home and just be told that it's not the end of the world, sometimes that's just all you need to hear. And you go, yeah, you're right.
Congratulations, by the way. The engagement was just a few months ago, right? In Italy.
Thank you.
And I mean, I feel bad for him, because having you as a partner, this athlete, I mean, the poor guy, he's got to hit the gym every day to desperately keep up, so that if he's standing next to you in an Instagram photo, it doesn't look like the number 10, or something, right? I mean, he
does hit the gym every day.
Of course, he's traumatized. He's got to keep up somehow. let me end off. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. You're very accessible and smart, and as an Iranian Brit, I could only be proud of you. You are the first half Persian ballerina, the only Middle Eastern ballerina to be in the Royal Ballet Company. How aware are Iranians that you are one of us? I mean, I hear you have quite an Iranian following in social media now, and tell me about what they say to you.
Well, it makes me feel very proud that I can represent them. I know it's not easy in that part of the world to access dance. And I got a message from a young boy who travels 3 hours to Tehran weekly and dances in an empty swimming pool because he's passionate about it, and expressed that, I'm that light for him to keep going, that motivation. And to me, it's very moving. Very moving. And I hope that I can continue to inspire and help in any way I can these young hopefuls to pursue dance, because it makes them happy and gives them joy and allows them that escapism as well. And it is very, very moving for me to receive their messages. And I'm very touched every time.
Yeah, I can only imagine your dad would be really proud that there's folks in Iran or Iranians around the world following you and sharing that pride.
Absolutely. And I think, there's a feeling of family with that. Every time I meet an Iranian, I feel like, it's part of family. And I love hearing the accent when they speak English. They have this very particular accent, and it feels like home. And it's special when Iranians come together. I feel like there's just that brotherhood every time, that there's that's something that connects you together, no matter where they are in the world. Just like meeting you as well.
Same. A final question to you. I mean, this upcoming performance of Giselle on the Covent Garden stage, it's going to be streamed worldwide. I mean, I know you've done a lot of big things. You're a big deal, but how's that going to feel to be performing and knowing that people around the world are watching in real time?
I mean, it's quite daunting, of course, if I think about it like that. But I try and think of the bigger picture, just being in the moment and dancing in that time. But it's a big weight on my shoulders to know about the numbers. I think someone told me once the numbers, but when I was doing a Romeo and Juliet streaming a few years ago, and I said, don't tell me. I'd rather not know. Just keep that out of my mind. I'm just in the moment dancing. But I'm so glad that we can do this now, to make ballet and dance so accessible no matter where you are in the world. Not everyone can come to an opera house. So if it's someone, just accessing a computer somewhere, God knows where, enjoying the performance, I'm very happy.
It's such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for making the time. Congratulations on all that you've done. I can only hope that we get to see you in person, either here in Canada or in England sometime soon. Thank you for this.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you too.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye.
Yasmine Naghdi, principal dancer at the Royal Ballet. Her upcoming performance in the romantic ballet Giselle on the Covent Garden stage will be streamed worldwide. Yasmine Naghdi joined us from London, England today. All right, microphone's back on for Captain Reza, Groovy Shaya, and the fabulous Keon. Well, that didn't disappoint me.
Not at all.
She's exactly what I, so composed, smart, focused.
Yeah, so much respect. There are little girls probably that are just finding out about her now who aspire to be ballerinas, and probably never thought it was possible until someone like her comes along and
possible to be at that level.
To be a Persian ballerina, It's massive.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't know much about her, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal having her on the show
How
until I
dare
looked her up
you.
and
Thank
listened to the
you.
interview. And I'm actually quite proud that
Yeah.
we were able to.
This is what
get her
happens
and
when
have
you
her.
watch car chase movies 24/7.
I know. That's
I
want to
I'm gonna make it a point to go to London at some point to watch her. I really
yeah,
want to
it'd be
do
great
that.
to see her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make sure.
What were you going to say, Captain Reza? Sorry, I cut you off.
I was gonna say the only thing that it was. Well, first of all, she's very well spoken. Let's all agree on that. Like very articulate, fantastic speaker. But when she was talking about letters that she gets from Iran and of that little boy who drives 3 hours to Tehran so that he can like dance in a.
Yeah.
It was just so heartbreaking. I'm like, you see, like, what
Yeah.
chance does he have?
Exactly.
That guy, like, there are a
Yeah.
lot of people out there, and who may not ever have a chance to get to where they really truly want to get, and they may have the talent and the push the car, we say in Farsi, but they wouldn't have the opportunity.
Yeah, you don't want to take away from the sheen of just hearing from Yasmin for the last hour to talk about Vaziati Iran. But you're not wrong. Like a country of 80 million people,
I know.
millions of people, most of them young, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And could you just imagine that you can't even aspire to be her
I know.
because you're not even allowed to dance at the.
No.
I mean, in public. I mean, it's just what a mess.
What a mess. What a sad situation.
But anyway, I knew that, I sensed that I knew that she would be someone who is as focused and disciplined. Of course, you guys know me well enough to know I love that.
Yeah.
I just the amount of work that this person does and her focus, and even the regimented, like, I eat a steak dinner that every night before the
and a pesto
performance.
pasta, whatever.
Yeah. The risotto, and I love it. I thought I'm envious that she's someone who I really do believe half the battle in life is knowing at an early age who and what you want to be.
Yeah.
And so I'm envious that she just knew,
Same.
she figured it out from being a kid, and then it's just, how do I get there? And do I have the discipline? Do I have the support? She had the support of her parents, that kind of thing. But I mean, this is someone who seems to know who she is and what she wants, and obviously has disappointments and anxieties like all of us. But wow, yes, Rashaya, go ahead.
Yeah, I love that scene that where her mother said to her that, "Oh, honey, you don't have to do if it's hard," and she said, "No, this is my way." I mean, I'm just
Right.
paraphrasing.
She said that you're saying that for yourself, not
Yes,
for me.
not for me. Yeah.
And that she's like 13 when she says that
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, I love that too.
But it's actually kind of bizarre for me to think that you didn't know what you wanted to be since you were just, because you had success quite at an early age, and you were a musician, you were in a successful band, and then you became a broadcaster. So didn't you know what you wanted to do?
I kind of knew that I wanted to. I knew in my gut that I would always be doing something that's public. So everything that I've done, being a musician or a writer or being on TV or radio, it has to do with the public. But I didn't. I mean, I was playing drums at age 4 on a BBC show,
right?
So I was like, but no, I mean, I had all the. I also had the confusions of the Persian family and the I mean, it was pretty clear that. And like one by one, things fell away. He's probably not going to be an engineer. Let's hold out for no, he's not going to be a doctor. He'll be a lawyer. Oh nope, he's got into political science and his left wing.
Yeah.
So
that's the other thing with growing up Persian. Like it depends on what kind of parents you have. I mean, I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things.
Can you imagine? This is what I said it in the
you
interview.
did, yeah.
But can you imagine Yasmin, like where she's reached? Can you imagine having a Persian parent? This is what I want every Persian parent. I want them to listen to her and think about where she's gotten to and how proud we are of her, and think about the fact that how many parents would at age 12 say, no, Aziz, I'm sorry, you're not going to, you can do that as a hobby, get your degree, and then you can be ballerina, whatever you want, which of course is bullshit, because there's by definition, some of these careers, you're not going to be able to be a a hockey player or a ballerina or even really a musician.
Yeah.
If you're starting, at a popular level, if you're starting when you're 30 years old, it's just not going to happen.
So I have no chance of becoming a ballerina, huh?
Reza June, I think we need to talk. The window is closing. It's not entirely closed, but yeah.
Really looking forward to it. After
If
the
you're looking
interview.
for a partner, you can ask me.
It's getting weirder and weirder.
Shout out to Farida Marion and York National Realty. York National, based out of Aurora, Ontario, Canada, not too far from Toronto. The owner is a guy named Farida Marion. This is a boutique real estate brokerage company that provides top-tier service from first-time home buyers to investors looking for new opportunities in the communities they serve. Farid's also made it his mission to give back to the Iranian community in the diaspora. This episode of Rook is brought to you with some support from him and his team. A big thank you to Farid, Sean, and Nahal and York National Realty for all they do. YorkNational.com. Hey, it's Monday. And you know what that means.
Ooh, la la.
Letters of the week.
Somebody had their cereal today.
Some of us had their Wheaties.
I had my breakfast.
What do you got for us, Kian?
Okay, so a few weeks ago, we had an interview with Hadi Partovi, and of course, he's the Iranian-American tech entrepreneur, investor, CEO, and co-founder of the education nonprofit Code.org.
Yes.
Exhausting just listing his achievements. So we have Zoe Mehr wrote to us saying, this one was quite an inspiration. I've started my path in programming recently and really appreciate him and his work. I'm proud of him.
Nice. Thanks, Zoe.
And then Firuza Hashimi wrote saying, wow, I think this was one of the best episodes I have listened to. I didn't want it to end. What an amazing and inspirational person. He is full of positive energy and a great speaker. As Reza, our very own Reza, said, I am also proud to call myself Iranian because of him. Great job, Rook Team.
Thanks, Firuza.
And then, of course, last week we had part 5 of the new Contemporary History of Iran Rook series, and it was on the creation of Qanun. We had the founder and managing director of Qanun from 1965 to 1979, Lili Amir Arjomand, who joined us for that interview. Mujgan Bigdilo wrote to us saying, all the things we missed growing up in Iran after the revolution, with lots of sad faces. It's true. And then Cyrus...
Although Qanun still exists.
Right, but I mean,
yes.
you know. So then Cyrus Safabakhsh also wrote to us saying, oh my God, how nice, how humble, how great is she. Love this generation who did so much great work inside Iran. It's just lovely.
Nice. Yes.
And then look at that, letter of the week.
Oh!
This week's letter of the week goes to Zoya Katuli, who wrote to us saying, this episode brought tears to my eyes. Sweet memories of my childhood going to Qanun to pick a book and enjoy reading it in such a warm, happy, and friendly environment. It connected me to people, stories, theaters, and movies, which all helped improve my personality and made me who I am today. Thanks, Jian and Rook Team. Well done.
Oh,
beautiful.
That's a lovely letter. Thank you for that.
How much it meant to people.
Zoya, yeah. I don't think I asked you, Shaya, was Qanun a big deal for you?
Yes, of course. I mean, even after revolution, still Qanun was the place that children could go there and
Except Reza.
Yeah, I didn't go for some odd reason. My parents just put me to English school, and that didn't work out. So,
and also every book that you read has a little Qanun logo on it. And
the little bird.
Yeah, the little bird.
Oh.
Yeah,
so lovely.
That's so sweet.
Hey, before we go today, I got to mention something, which is this Friday, coming this Friday, a new series from Rook Media, and young Keon. Is part of this
that
thing.
young though?
Help me out here. I'm trying to help you.
All right, go on.
I'm doing my best to sell the series. Young, beautiful Keon.
We're trying to get some views, Keon. Cooperate, please.
No, we're not going to tell you what it is. I just,
okay.
Kian, you're,
Yes.
I know you're excited about this.
It's the first of its kind. Let's
It's
just
the
put
first
it that
of its
way.
kind. It's going to be available to view as well as to listen to, right?
Yeah.
And Kian, now can we reveal it?
Nope, absolutely not. Stay tuned.
I can't say the name.
You cannot.
All
No,
right.
but it's coming this Friday.
All right,
And it's going to get a lot of attention, I'm sure.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Good
yes.
and bad, probably.
Yes, I think I mean, I know what it is. I'm like, oh, really?
Oh my goodness!
What could you be talking about?
Gracious.
But I am excited for what you're doing
Yeah,
and what you people. There's more than just you. I know
That's right.
There's some people involved.
There's 2 other people involved.
All
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And are their names Reza and no?
They are not. No, finally, I have the opportunity to separate from Reza and Shaya.
But the music, actually, you have me on the show.
That's true. I can't escape that.
از خودت اینقدر تعریف نکن.
زشته دیگه.
We get it. All right. You're
Okay.
good at music. You went to Kanun. Yeah.
There's no escape from that.
You haunt my dreams,
All
Shaya.
right, we will look forward to that this Friday. A new series featuring Kian coming up. We'll find out what it is when it's launched. This is Full Time for Rook for today. Also, check out the Contemporary History of Iran this Thursday. New episode, part 6 of that series, the story of Kayhan. Hey, for all things Rook, including links to all these different shows we're talking about, rookmedia.com is the place to go. rookmedia.com. It's also where you can become a patron of our show and support us. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together. Producer Susan, the fabulous Kian, Super Parisa, Ponce the artist, Sabi Roham, Ahay Merdad, Captain Reza, and Groovy Shaya. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe on any of our platforms if you've not done so already. You can find me on Instagram and Meta, the Facebook, at Jian Ghomeshi. Mizun Bashi.